All right, welcome everybody. This is Ray Hanania on Ray Hanania on Politics podcast. We're broadcast live on YouTube, and also you'll be able to listen to our show on Facebook, on YouTube, and then I'll write a couple stories about it. My guest today is somebody that I've known for a while. She's been in politics. We're going to do a deep dive into her background, what drives her into politics. She's running as a Republican candidate in the 6th Congressional District, Niki Conforti. Niki, thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Ray. It's a great opportunity to be here with you today and speak to your audience.
And the 6th District, me being Middle Eastern, obviously, there is a lot of dissatisfaction with Sean Casten, the Democrat, and especially in my community. And I think there are some dissatisfactions in other communities. He always reaches out to us and says, hey, I want to talk with you and include you. And then when he gets elected, he shuts the door on us and we don't talk. So I'm just telling you, I am not voting for him. I'm not going to vote for him. And I'm a conservative Democrat. And I know a lot of Arab Americans, Christians, and Muslim are upset about him. He's unresponsive. So I think it's a good idea for them to maybe get a chance to get to know you. They're familiar with you, but we want to get a little into that. But before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Niki Conforti? Where did you come from, and why did you get into politics?
Well, thank you, Ray. Today, I'm a businesswoman. I am a businesswoman with a track record of delivering results. And I got into politics really when Biden took office. I was getting so frustrated watching the news and seeing that what was happening in the country. I mean, the country took a sharp turn to the left, and I instinctually knew we were on a course that was not to my liking. And I think we have all experienced, the results of the last administration. And so I literally just stood up off the couch one day and said, that's it, I'm running. I didn't know where to start, but, true to myself, I reached out, gathered information, built a network, and ran in the 2022 election. Fast forward to today, I'm running again in 2026 to take down Sean Casten. Just to tell you a little bit about who I am, today I'm an energy consultant. The energy field, as you know, is a complicated industry that is rapidly transforming. Whether it's generation, transmission, distribution, every aspect of the industry is being impacted, not only by AI, but also the way people are using their energy is changing. So we need people in Congress today that really understand the intricacies of the industry that can create meaningful policy to deliver affordable, resilient, and reliable energy to the everyday American.
Does
Now,
that
before I
mean
got,
does
yes, go
that
ahead.
mean like my electrical costs have jumped?
Yes. And
Gasoline
guess what? They're
all
going to increase again.
Yeah, and gasoline goes up, but it always comes down around the holiday. But I'm worried that gasoline's going to go back up pretty soon, and these costs are compiled with all the other expenses that we have. You're right, energy is a big issue.
Right. So I want to get to, again, with my knowledge in the industry, I want to get to Washington and create legislation that will, reduce regulation, bring speed to power, keep the consumer protected. We don't want grandma down the street to have to pay for the big AI data center that's coming in across town. And without the right legislation in place, we're at risk of all incurring those costs. And now, before I was in energy, I spent about a dozen years in healthcare. I was a director in healthcare on the administrative side, so I never saw a patient, but I worked with senior leadership to deliver healthcare. When I was in healthcare, Obamacare rolled out. At that time, people in the industry were excited about a president doing something for the healthcare industry.
Right.
But very rapidly, we saw prices increase, denials increase, and choice evaporate. So it became a disaster very quickly. again, we need people in Washington today that can start to impact that industry from a reform perspective, increase transparency, increase competitiveness to try and bend the cost curve and help the everyday consumer.
So
Now, one,
healthcare is a big. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
yeah,
healthcare is
no,
another big issue. My healthcare
absolutely.
doubled. I'm fortunate. I work a lot, so I can pay my bills. But I know a lot of people that are having a real hard time. Obamacare, as they call it, that wasn't the official name, but everybody refers to it as Obamacare.
Mhm.
I thought was good because it offered an option to people who were poor or who didn't have strong incomes. Um, I've seen the health industry surge in profits while denying health services to people that I know that need, responses. So, is there a non-political way to look at the problems in the healthcare industry, or is it because of politics? I mean, do you know what I'm getting at? It's like the
Yes,
healthcare
well,
industry on its face is bad, and then we
yes.
have the politics of it.
The way, the way healthcare is structured and Obamacare was structured is it really pushed the profits to the insurance companies. So right now, insurance companies are, very powerful within the healthcare industry. They basically decide who your doctor's going to be, what care you're going to get, and what cost you're going to pay. And you just have to suck it up and go with what they say. So we really need to turn that industry on its head and put the power back in the hands of the people and allow the people to be able to choose their doctors. That's one thing Obama would say when he was rolling out the ACA was, um, you get to keep your doctor and costs will go down. Well, that was the opposite of what people actually experienced.
Right.
And again, we need people in Congress that understand the industry that can start to reform it and make changes that will benefit the people and lower costs and put money back into their
And,
pockets.
and just in fairness, I know we talk about, and again, Obamacare, it's really the national health care that they passed when Obama was president. But there have been two
Mhm.
presidents since Obama, and healthcare just continues to rise up. Is it a
Mhm.
result of what Obama did, or is it a result of our governments not addressing the problem of healthcare properly? We have people in elective office, they say they care about, bringing down the cost of healthcare, but nobody does anything. How do we change
Right.
that?
Right. And there's no simple answer to that. I believe a lot has to do with the lobbying for the insurance companies in
Yes.
Washington, D.C.
Right. Yeah.
And, again, they are so powerful today that they basically control your healthcare choices. They control your healthcare. And so we need to really start to break that down and allow, and put power back into the hands of the people to make their choices, to be able to make decisions on a couple of things. How many times have you gone to the doctor, gotten a test, and gotten the results, and then a year later you get a bill, or a year and a half later you get a bill. You can't remember if you paid it, if you even had the test in some cases. So we need to shorten that. We need, so people can pay their bills. Also, when you go to the doctor, right now it's on the onus of the patient to find out the cost, to check your benefits, what's covered by your plan. Why can't we flip that and put the responsibility in the hands of the doctor's office and the healthcare system and let them, I mean, that's what we're paying them to do, right? So those are just some really little things that we can do, but I'd like to be able to be able to take healthcare across state lines, be able to have an opportunity to get a couple of different quotes on a test so you
Right.
can choose the
But
location, the doctor, and the price you want to pay. None
I
of that
hate,
is possible today.
yeah, I hate the idea that each state has their own restrictions on healthcare. It doesn't make
Right?
sense to me. This is a national problem. The costs of healthcare continue to increase, but and what's remarkable to me is the profits of these health insurers are enormous. They're in the billions of dollars. How is it that a healthcare industry that's failing the people is really producing more and more profits for the people that run these companies? There seems to be something wrong with that. And I think you're right. It's the in, insurance, health insurance lobby that's protecting these health insurance companies who pay them enormous dollars to protect them from people like you, complaints from me. It almost feels like it's impossible to make a change. The system is so weighed against us.
Yes, yes, and it's the way the system is structured, right? It's the way Obamacare was set up. The governmental funding goes directly to the insurance companies, and then from there they make decisions. So we just need to change that
Well, what
and really
happens when
protect the physicians. We need to
I,
protect the physicians. We need to protect the patients, and make some changes in the industry that do that.
how do we change that though? I mean, it's I'm not sure how you can do it without putting your foot down and getting Congress to put their foot down and say enough is enough. They shouldn't be making those profits that are so
Mhm.
great. I mean, I'm all for, you know, competition and, an open economy in America, but healthcare is a special area where I don't think it should be driven by the economy, the economics. It should be driven by the needs of the people. This is so essential
Right.
to our survival, isn't it?
Absolutely. And when I get to Washington, I'm hoping to be placed on both the committee that handles healthcare and energy
Okay.
and make an impact in those areas based on my experience in those industries. Having worked a dozen years in healthcare, 8 going on 9 years in energy, I have the foundation to really make meaningful changes. Nothing's easy, but you got to get it done. I mean, that's what I'm going to Washington to do.
Now, tell us a little bit more about your personal life. I want to get back to that topic. I read
Sure.
someplace that you were involved in numerous philanthropic efforts through your church. And
Yes.
one of them was the International Orthodox Christian Charities. Tell us
Yes.
about your family because I didn't realize you were Orthodox. As you know, I'm Orthodox,
Yes.
raised in a Lutheran church, but my family's Orthodox. And that connection, I think, is big in some of our ethnic communities in this district, including Arabs, who are very close with the Muslim community. But the Arab population, the majority, 60 to 70%, are Christian in this district. You don't see and hear them all the time, but they're out there. And I think if they knew you were Orthodox, it would make a big deal to them.
Yes, I am the daughter of a Greek immigrant. I'm a first generation Greek, baptized Greek Orthodox. I'm very close to my faith, practice regularly. It is an important part of who I am. And, being raised in an immigrant household, faith and family were the backbones of, you know, of my upbringing. That and hard work really are big parts of my character. And those are things that I bring forward and want to take into my role representing the community because the community is, a big part of who I am. I want to make a difference. I want to help people's lives. Um, I've done a lot with the IOCC. One thing that I'm pretty proud of is, I helped rebuild homes that were devastated after a hurricane struck the East Coast. And it was 5 years after the hurricane had passed through, and people could still not get back into their homes. So here I was with a circular saw, a hammer and a nail, and rebuilding walls and door frames and, helping the people, try and get back into their homes. And that's just who I am. I've
And,
always been someone to get involved. Um, And, I love it. I love people. I think everybody has something to bring to the table. And I love all people.
And your parents, yeah, well, not your parents, your grandfather and many members of your family, as I understand it, were veterans that served this country. Some of them
Yes.
were immigrants from, like your grandmother, I think you said, on your mother's side. And we have grandparents come
Yes.
from different directions, but you have a number of veterans that are in your family. How important is the military as a member of Congress to
Oh my
you?
gosh. It's of the utmost importance. I've never had the opportunity to serve myself, but yes, I come from a long line of veterans on really both sides of my family. My grandfather on my dad's side, fought in France in World War One. My uncle was in the Rainbow Division in World War Two, fought in the Battle of the Bulge. My dad was a Korean War veteran. And then
Well,
my grandfather, my great grandfather came through Ellis Island and fought in World War II to gain his citizenship. And my two uncles, one Army, one Navy. So really, the military is a big part of who I am. I am a fighter, and I am willing to stand up and fight for what is right and to protect my people.
it's important to hear that. I know from my own family heritage, my parents were immigrants. My dad came here in the 20s. After Pearl Harbor, the day after,
Mm.
he and his brother Moses enlisted in the military. They put my dad because he was educated in the OSS, which became the CIA, and he fought in Europe
Oh,
for
wow.
4 years. And then his brother Moses, they put him in the Navy because they thought it would be interesting to put Moses to part the sea to help our American forces in the
I
North
love
Atlantic.
that.
Yeah, they wouldn't let him go with his brother. They put him in the Navy. They just refused to let him go into the Army because of his name. Let's shift a little bit and talk about
Okay.
politics. Illinois
Sounds
is
good.
always defined as a blue state or a Democratic
Mhm.
state. And I was just looking at the last two elections. Now, you said you ran in 2022. What was that for? But did I
Right,
get
for
that?
this seat. Yes, I ran in the 2022 election for this seat, U.S. Congressional District 6. You remember that was a census year, so every position was up and there were multiple candidates for every seat.
Okay,
For the Republican nomination for this district, there were six candidates.
right.
Um, Keith Pekow won the seat. I finished third
Got
behind
it. That's what it
him
was.
and Gary Grasso.
Right.
And then I went on to run last cycle unopposed, almost beat
Correct.
Sean Caston, really. It was a close race. Obviously didn't. But I've decided to run again because I'm much stronger now than I was
And,
before.
and I'm not
I think I
criticizing
can win.
you. And I'm not criticizing you. In 2022, Pico only got 45.6% of the race. It was a off year election. Voting
Mhm.
turnout was down. In your race in 2024 against Sean, you got 45.8%, which is slightly higher than Pico got
Mhm.
as a Republican candidate. Sean Caston in that election, the turnout was much higher because it was a presidential election, and he beat you by 30,000 votes. And
Right.
he beat Pekow by 30,000 in a lower number. That 30,000, how do you, and again, there's always a chance that you can win, but when you look at the track record, how do you make up that difference of 30,000 votes against somebody like Sean Casten, a Democrat in a Democratic district who seems to have the backing of the Democratic organization? How do you challenge that? How do you break that domination that he controls in that election?
Well, Ray, you have to remember, even in 2024, I was pretty much a no name, right? I didn't hold, I held
That's fair.
elected precinct committee person, but I didn't hold a big office. So I was able to do as well as I did with no name recognition because I had a hard team, a huge team, and we worked very hard and we had a great
So,
message. And
so
so now,
one answer, in other words, is you've been building up your name recognition
right.
since those last two elections, and you actually were the Republican candidate against him 2 years ago. You're saying
Mhm.
that that is one of the factors that's going to help you, correct?
Yes, I have name recognition. My influence across the district is growing. It's really heartwarming when people come up to me that I don't know and recognize me and told me that they voted for me, they'll vote for me again, and they want to help me win. Like I said, my influence is growing and we're doing things differently. We were using the media better than we did before. That was a big gap in my campaign. We're using social media better than we did before. And my team is growing even more so, and we're getting staff, more experienced staff than I had last time. So the campaign is strengthening. My presence in the district is becoming more well known, and we're adding components to the strategies that we didn't have last time. So I think, and people are waking up to who Sean Casten really is. I mean, you alluded to it at the beginning of this conversation. He's, very charming, well-spoken, will, weave his web and make you believe that he is on your side and he's got your
Right,
back. But then he turns around, goes to Washington and votes for illegals against you, votes against the Lake and Riley Act, votes to put to put boys into girls' sports and locker rooms and
right.
bathrooms. And he's voting for socialism. So he is voting against the people of this district in in every opportunity. And people are starting to recognize that. And I think it's the advent of social media that's really helping to expand the knowledge of the electorate to really see what a far left liberal he truly is. And he's working against us. And
Yeah,
he's in support of a lot of what's happening in the state with that are causing our taxes to go up and up
I think there are
and
a
up.
lot of Democrats that might. I'm a conservative Democrat, but there are a lot of Democrats that might where your message would resonate with them. The one part that I think might cause you problems is when you use, and I'm not criticizing you, when you use the word socialist
That's
and
right.
socialism. That sounds like more of a part of a bigger political fight, and it takes it away, in my opinion. Sometimes it takes it away from the challenges we face. The fact is, I'm Middle Eastern. We're conservative. I don't want people telling me how to raise my kids. I do not want the schools to tell me whether my son should be or my daughter should be transgender. It's none of their business. They should have nothing to do with my kid until my kid is
Right,
an adult. Let my son or daughter do whatever they want after they reach adult age. And in my
right.
view, that's 18. I'm not against gay
I agree.
people, but it's not a lifestyle that I would embrace
I
and
agree.
say that I like. But we shouldn't discriminate against them. Those are Republican conservative issues that somehow a lot of Democrats also tend to lean toward, but they've been pushed into this idea that it's a matter of civil rights. And I don't think it's a civil rights, always just a civil rights issue. Don't push me too hard. Not you, but don't push me too hard. like my religion. I want religion taught in schools. If my kid wants to pray in school, these are conservative issues that some Democrats have turned into a matter of discrimination rather than civil rights of being a good parent and a good family. Do you see it that way, or how do you view that?
Yes, absolutely. And just to comment on your earlier statement, I only use the term socialism because there was a piece of legislation that came to the floor for a vote in Washington, D.C. on stopping the spread of socialism as a political platform
Right.
in America. And he voted against it. So in essence, he voted in favor of socialism. So that was what I was referencing when I
Got it.
said he votes in favor of socialism. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the beauty of our country and the freedoms that we get to enjoy enable us to practice and live a life of our choosing as long as we're good citizens and we abide by the law and we don't harm anyone, and we all have the ability to follow the pursuits that we want to pursue, right? And religious or sexual or whatever, but don't push it on the children. Don't, once people reach 18, I completely agree with you. They have the right to choose to live the lifestyle they choose,
Yeah.
but don't push, puberty blocking drugs and
Right.
gender
It's not.
affirming care
I
on
don't want some
kids.
I don't want some bureaucrat raising my kid. I don't want a bureaucrat or a politician. Leave them alone. And if you want to go fight,
Right.
not you, but if these people want to go and fight for these things, let them fight for it, but speak to the adult community. Leave my family alone.
Okay.
Let us decide what we want to be and let us pursue what we feel are the moral values that we feel are important. And I think that's a great issue to resonate with that I hear coming from you that you feel the same way.
Oh, absolutely. And you touched on a very important topic, and that being parental rights. It is the parent's right to make decisions for their child on healthcare, on education, uh, and it's not the right of the government to do that without the knowledge of the parent. And that was the road that we had been going down. And, we need to protect the rights of the parents.
So I want to talk a little bit about the Republican Party, and you're right, we're hit the 20-minute mark. You're right. But I think this is so important to do this interview with you. The Republican Party has been divided more locally in Cook County, but you see the changes in DuPage County. It's no longer the Republican bastion that it used to be. What is
Right.
happening in the Republican Party today? What are the challenges as a Republican? Can the Republican Party come together away from some of these individuals that felt like they were? I don't want to bring in the guy's name that I don't like in the Republican Party, who was a mayor out here. I didn't like him, but I didn't believe that was a Republican issue. I like to see
Mhm.
Republicans come together and work together. And like I said, my parents were Republican and we became
Mhm.
conservative Democrats because the Republican option almost disappeared from us in Chicago. It's disappearing from Cook
Yes.
County. How do you reverse the trend as a Republican? Because we do need two parties to keep both parties accountable. And if we only have one
Yes.
party, they can do whatever they want to do without answering to somebody outside of the party. How do you bring the Republican Party together? And where is the Republican Party today in Cook County, in the 6th District, and in Illinois, from your perspective?
Yes, the Republican Party is made up of many different factions that really oftentimes are at war with each other. We're often criticized for fighting against ourselves more than we fight against the Democrats. And
Right.
that's true. The Republican Party is lacking today in funding, quite frankly. And with everything that's happening in the state, the little bit of funding that they did have has left the state. So that's crippling the party. But I think what we truly need is a strong leader that has singular focus, that can speak to all the factions, listen to their needs, satisfy some, but they're not going to get everything, but be able to herd cats, as they say, bring the party together and lead them forward with or without money. I think it's the quality. I mean, because we do have quality candidates in the races that we're running, but we need a strong leader at the top that can really lasso all the issues that we're facing with, mitigate the conflict, and really, choose a couple of different goals. I think right now we're headed in too many different directions, right? We need to set a prioritized goal list and then attack them one at a time, and the top being really unity in the party.
And we're talking about the Republicans in Illinois, Cook County,
Right.
DuPage
I'm
County,
talking
the
about
6th
the
District, because there are other issues
right.
that go national in terms of, I'll ask you about just for a quick reference. how do you view President Trump, for example, and his leadership? Some
Mhm.
Republicans, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I really like her because she always said that her commitment is to America first. And she got into a fight with the president and some Republicans. And I think that hurts the Republican Party. I'm worried about the
Yes.
midterm elections, that the Democrats will take over, in my opinion, the House. This is going to be a tough election, I think, because of some of the things that happen. How do you counter that national trend that people believe is going to take place in Illinois? How do you counter that? How do you present
Well,
yourself?
first and foremost, I have to take care of the people of my district. I have
Okay,
to, sit down, listen to their needs, all of them. There's many different um, components to the Illinois district. There are many things that President Trump has done that I support, although I
right,
don't agree with him on
right,
everything.
right.
I don't agree with him on everything. And we need somebody, with the life experience and professional experience to have the backbone to be able to say, no, I don't agree with that. That's not the way you know, I want to see things happen for the benefit of my constituents because that has to be first and foremost. We need to get back to America working for the everyday Americans. Right now, we're in a situation where the everyday American is really being taken advantage of. And, financially through our tax dollars, through our wages, through, the taxes that are being placed upon us. And we really need to do what is right for the American people and listen to the people, to the Republicans. And I think if the Republican Party will start listening to the Republicans and acting in a way that they're wishful for, then I think we'll do very well in 2026. I'm of
So,
the opinion, I disagree with you, Ray. I think 2026 will be a strong year for the Republican Party.
okay, I'm interested to see that. If we had a scale with six district issues on one side and national
Mhm.
and foreign policy issues on the other side, where would the scale be in terms of your priorities? I mean, would it be equal? Would it be more toward the district? Would it be more toward foreign policy and national issues? Where would that scale, if you put your concerns and divided it up between the two sides, how would that scale look? If you know what I mean?
Yes, I consider myself an America First candidate. And I will do what is right for my people first and for the country as a whole also. So we have to take care of our people first before we look outside. In and that's really just the way I feel. We can't, certainly pull out of everything, but yes, we have to put our people first. Our people have been neglected for a long time. And America has, um, before really these last 11 or 12 months, America was really on the decline. And people didn't want to admit that. I think they were in denial. But when you look at a lot of things, it was gutted with manufacturing, jobs, and we were depending on, imports for pharmaceuticals, for, most of the components for all the important parts and that are made. So we need to bring a lot of that back and really the interestingly, I believe that the Congressional District 6 in many ways is a microcosm of the nation in the sense that there's a lot of industry, there's a lot of transportation issues here, there's good jobs there. It has a lot of diversity as far as population and race, economic level, social level. So I think it's really a good reflection. So oftentimes the issues that are here in the district will mirror what is on the national level. And I think if I just take care of the people in my district, like the affordability issues, which I believe Energy and healthcare are two big components of the cost of living. And with my experience and knowledge, I believe I can make impacts in those areas to start to bend the cost curve and lower the cost of living and help the affordability issues for the people of the district and really for the country.
So, in fairness to you, if I write the story that you're focused on the district more than, not that you've abandoned national issues or foreign policy, that's not to say that, but your emphasis will be more toward what the 6th district needs. Is that fair to say that, or how would you
It's very
qualify
fair,
that?
and I think that's very fair because I believe these last 7 going on 8 years that Sean Casten's been representing us, he has not been representing us. The people of this district have not had a voice. They have not had the opportunity to be involved in legislation in a way that they want the legislation to be voted upon. And I think by, really caring about my people, I mean, it is a balance, right? You can't go there and say, oh, I have blinders on to world issues. You can't do that. It is Washington, D.C. after all. But the priority should always be first, what's best for the people of my district, and then how will it affect the people of the country?
All right, couple quick questions, and then we got to end it, and they're going to be on foreign policy a little bit. Ukraine, just give us your summary of how you view the Ukraine war.
How I view I believe we need foreign wars in general. I think we've given a lot of money to foreign wars, and as I said, I think right now we need to turn that money internal to mental health issues, to help the homeless, to help the veterans, to lower the crime. We have so many issues here at home where that money can be better spent. That right now, that's where I'd like to see the money go.
Does that apply also now to the Middle East, where we have ongoing, endless conflicts between Israel, Hamas, Israel and the Palestinians, Israel and the Middle East? We spend so much money on the Middle East. Does that apply to that also?
Yes. Yes. I think the Middle East, we need policy, we need to push peace. We need to work towards peace and stop the killing really in both wars. These are turning into perpetual wars. And we need to really get respect in the regions, have accountability on both sides, reach an agreement that everyone can adhere to and keep, even with the peace agreements we've had. They've been broken in some cases less than 24 hours. So, how do you move forward from that? I mean, there are so many other issues there, the rebuilding, getting food and business and commercials back up and running. There's so many other things that we need to do to help the people of those areas prosper and lead better lives, that we really need to work towards peace. And that has to be, the primary focus.
Do you worry about when somebody asks you, do you accept money from AIPAC, or do you accept money from these big lobbies, or do you accept money from some of the dark money that comes indirectly to candidates? How do you feel about those issues?
Well, I pride myself on someone. I don't. I'm not somebody that can be bought. I've always already made the commitment that I will not take APAC money.
Wow,
Um,
wow.
I will, there's going to be, I will take money. Obviously, I'm going to need money. I will take money from those causes that align with you know, my belief system, what I feel is best for the country. So maybe I'm not going to make 30 million in my first year like Ilhan Omar or, you know, AOC, but that's not what I'm going to Washington, D.C.
Oh,
for. I'm going to Washington, D.C. to stand up for the American people, to really do what's best for this country and really to save the country. I think people don't fully realize how close we came to losing our country in the 2024 election. And
Right.
it's going to be of the utmost concern to me to make sure that I act in a manner that protects the American people, protects America, protects our freedoms, and keeps us and our sovereignty in place going forward.
All right, Nikki, any final thoughts on any issue? I know we've kind of really pushed the time limit here, but there were so many
Yes.
issues to cover. I have to bring you back before the election. And not so
Oh,
much,
I
I'm
would
not
love
in,
that.
I think that mainly you're going to be the big challenge will be in the November election. That's where this race is going to really go. So I want to make sure that we bring you back. Your website, I have you at Conforti for Congress, number four, and it's Conforti is
Yes.
CONFORTI, number four, Congress.com. If people want to look you up, find out what you're
Yes.
about, reach out to you, and you're saying that you're going to be responsive to people, even whether you agree with them or not, correct?
Yes, absolutely. I was raised in small business. Customer service is everything, the backbone of business. I'm a businesswoman. And so listening to my constituents, whether we agree or not, is going to be very important to me. And I will say I do have a primary opponent, so it's going to be important for your listeners to get out and vote for me on March 17th. Early voting starts February 5th. Unlike my opponent, I live in the district. I've lived here most of my life. I've, been alongside the people here in the 6th district through all the struggles, so I understand your needs. And I have an Illinois voting record.
All right, my
So get
guest.
out to vote for me, Niki Conforti.
All right, my guest, Niki Conforti. Nikki, it's great talking with you. I'm looking forward to interviewing you again. I appreciate your comments, and I think you come across in a very centrist view, but a very strong representative of the Republican Party. And I think when people look at you, I think they need to understand who you are, and they should go to your website and check that out. Nikki, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ray. And thank you to your listeners.